Welcome back to the Talking Wolves podcast, recapping Friday night's game against Manchester City. Unfortunately, Wolves' unbeaten run coming to an end, but we'll discuss the action from Friday evening. My name is Dave Azzopardi, and alongside me as always, it's great to have once again Jord Russell and Joe from Concept Scouting. Jord, starting off with you, we're about halfway through our bank holiday weekend, mate. How you been keeping? You been enjoying it?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, it's good. I was in Birmingham yesterday, having some drinks and some food. So there was about 12 of us. We went to the Indian brewery, but the tap house bit with the darts and pool table, really, really good spot if no one's been there.
So the jewellery quarter?
Yeah. So
They've
they've got the restaurant, which has been there for a while, but then probably about another 2 minutes down is towards maybe like where you get to the Jam House and St Paul's House. Like they've actually got the tap room there now, so it's really good in there. And then we end up going to Gas Street Social, the botanist, for a bit of scran afterwards. So yeah, it was all right, mate. To be fair, and then we've done all that. God knows how much we've been drinking all day, and then thought it'd be a good idea to go on. They've got like a little spin ball with a roller coaster now, where the ice rink was. And I was like, everyone was going on. I was like, what are we doing? It's like $5 each. I was like, what are we doing here? Then everyone, more and more people, like, yeah, we're going on it. My missus was like, come on, let's go on it. And I just regretted it. As soon as I got on it, I thought, I'm going to throw up here. I just know I'm going to throw up. Like, I'm just going to be really ill. And like, just spinning.
After boozing as well.
Just spinning, yeah. And I was like, it's not even like it's quick or like, but just because of that much alcohol and food, I was like, I just want to go home now. Literally got the train home. About 10 minutes later, I was like, I'm done. Like, forget another drink. I just feel ropey. So yeah, that was that. And then today, I've been up Muriel for my sins as well, which is not what you want to be doing.
Probably not the best place to go when you're hungover, to be fair, or day after
or
a drink.
ever.
Yeah.
I felt. To be fair though, I felt a lot better this morning than the morning of last Saturday when I met Joe before the Leicester game. Because that was a sorry state. At least I had my wits with me today. I felt all right when I woke up, but I wouldn't recommend that roller coaster after about 12 points.
No. Well, this is the thing for me, and I was going to come on to this later, but I'm not going to be able to watch the Brighton game next week live because I'm doing that's the first stag do that I'm going on this month to the Otley Run. But as you boys know, and some of the other lads, I am not a good drinker, and I think there's about 17 boozers that you got to drink in here. So there's a few tactics that I've got to consider here. I mean, Joe, and probably you, George, you'll probably know better than I. How on earth am I going to be out? Because I'm not a good lager drinker. My mate suggested lager, a little bit of lemonade to take the edge off. Someone suggested Guinness and black to me. I was going to just do shorts. I think that's probably the safest.
On a side note, Dave, how many stag do's have you got in May?
2.
It's so funny that both of your friends are having stag do's in May. That's 100% of your friends in 1 month.
Yeah, it's more.
But yeah, I don't I don't know how to approach this all.
I don't think there's a way about it, mate. I think stag do's, unfortunately, they're just painful. It might be the older you get, they get more painful. But just I think
my technique, not so much now, but my technique used to be tactical chunder, Dave. Every 4 drinks. Ooh. I don't want to condone kind of
binge drinking.
Yeah, binge drinking or forcing yourself to be sick, Dave. But if you're having spent a weekend with you in Belgium. And within about 3 hours, you were sick anyway.
Yeah,
you might as well at least do it tactically and look after yourself.
I think eating's the main thing. So like I mentioned last week, when Uslot went out, the last thing I ate was at 2:30. I had chips before the game. I didn't eat the rest of that day, and I was drinking, and it was a recipe for disaster.
I tend to find that like if I eat and drink at the same time, it makes me worse. Whereas if I've had something solid in the morning and then leave it.
Yeah,
until...
I need something on to line my stomach, basically. I do, but yeah.
So a big Chinese in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, it's an early start as well. It's like we get into starting in Leeds about 11:30, and it is fancy dress. I won't ruin what we're going as. You can check out on my socials next weekend. It's probably not appropriate.
Just the day that you go at night as well.
Yeah, it's probably not appropriate for me to say what we're dressing up as anyway. But I saw someone else do the Otley Run yesterday, and all their outfits were different. Whereas we're all going as the same thing, which I think will look better.
I'm very curious now. So
I'll tell you
after.
Going
Simon Wilton.
I don't know if it's not my decision for what it, but yeah, I'll let people guess. If you're watching on YouTube, guess what we're dressing up as. The Stags going as one thing, and we're going all the 17 of us, the other 16 all going as another thing. But I don't think many people guess anyway. But
if you comment and get it right, you get some free Talking Wolves merch.
That's it.
What
Yeah,
Dave
if you
said.
get it right, yeah, go on. Yeah, Joe. Yeah, Joe, what about you? What have you been up to this weekend?
Low key for me, mate. This weekend, low key. I start a new job on Tuesday, so I'm having a peaceful, as peaceful a weekend as you can have with a 6-year-old. But we went over to see my best mate who lives in Cannock, who went to walk the dog to the usual Sunday morning type stuff, mate. But nice and low key, no beers. I feel like I'm getting old now, because I've officially discovered that I can't drink in the house. Went to the shop yesterday and did the shopping, and I got four Cruz Campos in, thinking I'll have a few of these, start watching the football, because I can't remember who was playing, like Arsenal go. I'll have a couple of beers to home, and I had half a pint and threw the rest away.
Why?
Just because I thought, well, if I'm not socially drinking, what's the point? I've got to the point now where that's where I am. That was the highlight of my weekend. But yeah, it's low key, mate. Low key.
I think people are going to start to get worried actually listening to this podcast, because alcohol seems to be a running theme every week whenever we talk.
Well, I think with Matt not being here anymore, that'll reduce somewhat.
Yeah,
because he sings a damn sight more than I do, and I know a lot more than Jord does. So it's been a nice quiet one this weekend, mate.
No, that's good. I mean, yeah, we're recording this Sunday evening, so I'm sure everyone. I'm hoping the weather perks up a little bit. I mean, I've been raving about the weather over the last couple of weeks, but it's got a little bit chillier this week. But hopefully, it's nice going into this week as well. But lads, let's talk about Friday night. Manchester City 1, Wolves 0. Disappointing way to end the unbeaten run, but there were some positives, I think, to take out of the game, Jord. I mean, it wasn't a classic. I don't think the neutrals would have been too pleased with when the final whistle went, just in terms of the quality of the game, I think, overall. But as Wolves fans, I suppose we could take some positives out of it. The starting lineup, the only big surprise, really, no Strand Larsen. Someone pointed out to me just before that it wasn't in the training video, so it sort of makes sense. But I think, do you think we missed Jorgen on Friday overall?
Yeah, massively, because I feel like he gives you that bit of presence, and it'd have been someone. It was an out ball we could have hit possibly at times where we were getting penned in. I think that last 10 minutes of the first half where Man City were on top of us, really, the ball kept coming back and floods of attack were coming back, and it would have definitely helped us within that. I think he would have definitely been sniffing in around the box and would have had a chance or two as well, the way we played, especially that first 35 minutes for me was almost perfect, a perfect away performance at the Etihad, to be honest with you, until we conceded. We missed him big time. I think it shows his value in the team, and actually, we're a settled 11 right now, and there's no surprises other than Strand Larsen not being in there. That it was the same 11 again. I think Vitor's now got his sort of trusted, probably core of 14. He probably trusts, I'd say.
Yeah.
And I'd chuck Sarabia in that as like someone who always comes off the bench. I think he's got some players in there that he trusts, and I think he's already making his decisions on who he wants around next year and who he doesn't. And I think it's sort of becoming more plain to see now with the substitutions he's making as well, about who he fancies and who he doesn't.
Yeah, definitely. I think that pretty much 11. I think 14 is probably bang on number, isn't it? You got Sarabia, Bellegarde outside the other starting 11. I think that's the sort of number and the players that he is trusting. I think, Joe, I mean, you speak about the biggest chance that we had was the chance for Bellegarde squaring it to Minetti. With Strand Larsen there, would we have created the chance? Because obviously he doesn't have the turn of pace that Bellegarde does. Or, you would hope if we were creating half chances like that, if Jorgen got one of those, we'd put it in the back of the net. But that was frustrating because those sort of opportunities don't come around often, especially away at Manchester City. And I said it on my review, I just never felt, watching it back, it just never felt like Bellegarde was completely comfortable on the ball in that situation. And for his faults, I still think Minetti would have buried that if the ball came to him at the right pace in the right area.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been able to miss it. He only had to play a half-decent ball into Minetti, and he wouldn't have had a chance of missing it. It was really poor from Bellegarde, and I think in the final third there are definitely questions of him in terms of his decision-making. I don't think he's quite there, although I do think he's obviously a more technical player than Bellegarde is. But I think that that kind of trio, whether it's Cunha, Menezzi, and Strand Larsen, or Strand Larsen, Cunha, and Strand Larsen, Bellegarde, and Menezzi, as we've seen, various times, always looks better with Strand Larsen in it. And I think the way it's set up for Menezzi to do a lot of the running to allow Strand Larsen to create that space with Menezzi, and I think Menezzi and Bellegarde and Cunha at times became the focal point of the three, which I didn't think really works. Don't get me wrong, there are times when we did literally just play straight through Man City. There was a really interesting kind of build up, because I think naturally with Strand Larsen on the pitch we would have got a bit more direct than we actually did, although there was a 15-20 minute spell when we were just lumping it out to Menezzi. To be honest, there were times where I thought he did okay with it. I think that naturally when we don't win a game, if we're playing Barcelona or Real Madrid, that there are 2 or 3 players that become the automatic focal point of kind of fans' ire, and I think Bellegarde and Menezzi copped a lot of that on Friday. I don't think either of them were that bad if you look at what they're actually there to do. I saw Cunha copping quite a bit of flack. I don't think Cunha was that bad, really. Cunha was doing what he always does. He drops back into midfield to win the ball. I think there was a point where Vitor was telling him to get back up. Obviously, at that point in time, he was doing Strand Larsen's job effectively. So I think it just looked a bit disjointed, and it looked as if we tried to work on something, but it hadn't quite worked. But I think the general patterns of play and the general kind of way we tried to assert some dominance on the game, I think was really, really encouraging. And I think there's spells of the game where Semedo looked really, really good. It's disappointing. You never want to lose a game, do you? But I think if you're going to lose a game of football, that's the way to do it. It was all heart out there. There was some moments. Obviously, we've hit the post twice. That I'm sure we'll come on to the Ait-Nouri chance in a minute. But Bellegarde's got to play that ball into Menezzi. Even just roll it into him. It's not hard. It's not a difficult pass at all, is it?
Or strike it as well. I thought that the way he could have had a dig himself, to be fair, but like I said, he just never seemed too convincing on the ball. But I mean, you touch on a few things there. There's a lot of football teams that would probably go to the Etihad and sit 11 men behind the ball and park the bus almost and hope for the best. Whereas I think Vitor pretty much made it clear in his pre-match press conference, Jord, as well, that we saw sort of a real Jekyll and Hyde performance against Liverpool at Anfield, where the first half were really poor and quite defensive, and the second half we really went at Liverpool and caused them some problems. So it's obvious that Vitor wanted to get on the front foot against City, and there are fine margins. You had the Bellegarde chance, the Ait-Nouri chance, which we'll come on to in a second as well. But there was a clear sort of idea. It was in those wide areas. Bellegarde and Semedo predominantly on the right. Ait-Nouri having a lot of joy on the left, beating the full back as well. But it was a clear idea to put our foot on the gas and try and hurt City early on, wasn't there?
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing, right? I think versions of our team over the past few years would have probably gone to the Etihad, like we have gone to away some of these bigger, the big six away from home, and roll over and get our bellies tickled a little bit. Mm-hmm. Certainly, like post Nuno, to be honest with you. So it was nice to actually see us go toe to toe, actually have a bit of self confidence in, with the informed team in Europe, let alone in the Premier League, and we showed that for large parts of that game, I thought, and I think it's really good to get that feeling that actually, under Vitor Pereira, we're going to go, and it feels like we can go and beat anyone on any given day. And that, again, that, reminiscent of when we were at our peak under Nuno, it felt like we could do that as well. And I think that actually we have got good footballers in that team, and we've got players that can hurt the best of teams in the world. And I know what you can say what you want about Man City, but they are still one of the best teams in Europe. You don't win the 4 in a row in the Premier League by accident and still have all that wealth of quality around them. And I think, you can argue the fact, Rodri and Haaland being out are probably their 2 best players, I would say as well. Does that impact them? Probably, but you can only beat what's in front of you. And honestly, I saw a few grumbles online as well about certain things, and I just thought, it happens, right? We just lost to a good team, and it was one. I've got to be fair to call out Andre. I thought he was brilliant all game, but he made a bit of an error, and we got punished for it. And that's what the best teams do, and you learn from it. And I think it's good that we've got ourselves into a position that it doesn't matter that we lost at the Etihad about 6 weeks ago. You'd think, God, we can't drop any points here. And if you'd offered someone, a Wolves fan, 6 weeks ago, you're going to go to the Etihad and lose 1-0 in this run-in, you go, well, that seems like a positive result for me. And you just move on to the next one. But, as it is that we've won 6 on the bounce, it's just good to go to. It was good to go to the Etihad on Friday with no concerns about relegation, no concerns about what's behind us, and just looking ahead at what's in front of you, really.
I don't know about you two, but the one big change, at least for me, watching Wolves and going into games and coming out of games, we're always in games. Yeah. We're always in the game, and I think that there's been times, even in the kind of Lopetegui run at the back end of that season, where we were getting battered away from home, and you knew we were going to go away and lose, but you knew we'd probably be in games at home. Whereas even going to the game on Friday, I remember saying to Gully on Friday, there's no, like, it doesn't feel like there's any jeopardy from a negative perspective. Like, you're not going into games thinking, fucking hell, we're going to get battered here. And for 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years, every time we go away to one of these big 6 clubs, you're thinking, man, is this going to be? Is it going to be 4 or 5?
City especially, what was it, 5-1 last year?
Yeah, but there was never a point, even when we went 1-0 down, usually, I've been there like the past 2 or 3 years, you'll go 1-0 down and think, fucking hell, here we go. This is going to be a rout. But even when the goal went in, you didn't feel like, right, we're going to get turned over. We're always going to be in games. So I think that comes from tactically the way that Pereira sets up. It comes from the way the players seem to be engaged in it. But the two in midfield, we've gone on about them a lot, but they just give you this comfort that you're never going to lose a midfield battle. And if you win the midfield battle, it comes down to moments, doesn't it? And it's a moment there where Andre's given the ball away and they've scored, but we're never getting kind of played through. Teams don't play through us anymore. And that's as a football fan, and we've been there a lot in the past, definitely having like kind of my 20, 25 years going the Wolves, there's always periods where you're getting absolutely tonked and you're getting battered, and it's just a case of, right, just try and sit in and contain it. You never feel like we're trying to contain anybody anymore. It's teams trying to contain us, and it's a very strange feeling, I think, as a Wolves fan.
Yeah, I think even in the games where we've had quiet spells or struggled, we've still been able to come out with positive results. I think one of the games that I think of the most, even in the, I suppose the FA Cup against Bournemouth was a good one, really struggled, but managed to take that all the way to penalties. But even the games earlier on in the year, Joe, under Vitor, the early ones, when Forest beat us 3-0, never a 3-0 game. We had some great chances. That could have been a completely different game. Even Newcastle away, they beat us 3-0. You think the amount of times we slice them open going forward, we should have scored there as well. So I think they were positive. I think we were missing Cunha in both of those games as well, if I think correctly. So you're right. I think it's positive to go into these games and have this, and I think it happens with every football team. I think now because we was unbeaten in 7, I think Wolves fans probably felt like we could have and probably should have beat City on Friday, which was always going to be a difficult task. So I think you've always got to pick out negatives. I think there will be people that do that, but I think a good 95% of people are going to look at the positives, and I think the positives are that, we created chances, the Ait-Nouri chance, which we'll touch on in a second, but City are that good because, one, they'll punish you. We let them off because we miss those chances. They'll punish you as soon as we make a mistake. But then as a top team, they know how to completely control and kill the game after they've got the lead. And that's what they did. After their goal, we probably had one chance which came close, which was when Cunha hit the post. So that's what we've just got to learn to do next season, is when we get chances against anyone in the Premier League, we have to be more ruthless. We saw it last week against Leicester. We were brilliant in front of goal.
That's the difference, isn't it? And we've spoke about Menezes in this regard before. The reason why some of our players, when they get in front of a goal and that it takes them 4 or 5 chances to get a goal, that's why they play for us.
Yeah.
If in the nicest way in the world, Kevin De Bruyne has played for Man City for the last 10 years because he can create a chance out of nothing that no one can miss. Or the reason Haaland is worth so much money to Man City because he only needs 2 chances tops. That's just the way it goes. And we've got players like Cunha who can just score a goal out of nothing. That's why he's a £62 million footballer. That's why we'll get 62 million quid for him. But you can't fill a team with those kind of players because you don't get those chances in that case because you've got no one working the balls off for the team. Whereas the fact that we created, not so much against Man City, because I think we created chances, but we weren't creating chance after chance after chance like we do in some games. But we the way that we're playing makes us better than probably the individuals that we've got. But with the likes of Andre and Joe Gomes and Agbadou particularly, I'm sure we'll come on to the future's bright there. But we've got to when people think they're being matter of fact by saying, well, if we'd have scored our chances, we'd have won the game. Everyone knows that, and the players know that better than anybody. No one needs to tell anybody that. But no footballer in the world scores every chance that they get. It's just not realistic. So if you get two big chances in a game, you'd like to score one of them.
Yeah.
You're not going to score both of them. You might score none of them. So it sounds like Michael Owen there. But I think we've got to be realistic in what we're dealing with, and we're playing Man City. Away from home.
And you're missing your number 9 as well. You get the ball in some of the areas that we managed to on Friday. I think, like Jord said earlier, Jorgen as a strike, you see with his conversion rate in terms of his shot to shot and target ratio and stuff, and the streak that he's on at the moment, there's every chance that he puts one of those into the back of the net. So I think it's just little things and small margins as well. And Jordan, another player that we got to keep our eye on over the summer, I think, will be Ait-Nouri, with his goal contributions as well this year. But yeah, he was a big part of a lot of our attacking moves, and he probably came closest to actually giving us the lead in that game as well, while picking up the ball from one of the direct balls. First shot hit the post, beat Edison. It was a really decent strike, to be fair, and the second one cleared off the line. But it'll be interesting because you would think that maybe Hugo Bueno could come back as, let's say, a ready-made replacement. There's been links to other players as well, but I think Ait-Nouri, we're finally starting to see the best out of him now in the Wolves shirt, aren't we? I mean, we knew the talent was there, and what was missing was the goal contributions. But thankfully, this season we've seen it, and he was unlucky not to add another one on Friday.
Yeah, I think he's playing higher up the pitch though as well, because I think earlier on this season, I didn't think he had a good start to the season. But I don't think
the system probably held him back a little bit under O'Neill as well.
Yeah, and I think the team, but obviously, quite obviously, the thing to say is the team wasn't having a good start of the season as well. But I think naturally, because we were getting hammered in games, let's be honest with you, like we were pretty poor, disjointed. We got pinned back, and he didn't allow him to flourish because we didn't have as much of the ball, and he'd probably getting the ball 30 yards deeper. I think the one change under Pereira is how high and wide both him and Semedo are.
Yeah,
and they really provide the width. I think to play like that sort of system effectively, your wing backs have almost got to be they've got to almost be not the catalyst is probably too much of a strong word, but they are the outball. Really, you'll see many times even against City, like Agbadou gets the ball, and as soon as he sprays it right or left on a little diagonal, almost like Cody would have done in the Nuno system. That was almost like then that sets the move off. And yeah, he's an unbelievable footballer. I think he's been I know over the last couple of seasons been spoken about a lot in sort of the mainstream media as well as like the next left back to go to one of these big 16s. But because of Kirkes and Robinson and what they've done earlier on this season, I think he's almost been sort of left a little bit in sort of the mainstream media of people talking him up as much.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you said to me, do you want Ait-Nouri or Kirkes, or do you want Ait-Nouri or Robinson? I'm still having Ait-Nouri over both of them, to be honest with you. And I think I almost feel like I'm at a point now with Ait-Nouri where I don't begrudge him a move because I think he's that good that he could go and play elsewhere. And I think I'm not so convinced on Bueno. I mean, I know we will probably have this conversation after post-season, sell, loan or whatever. But I'd be happier selling Bueno for 15, 20 million and keeping Ait-Nouri. But I just think Ait-Nouri is going to be, after Cunha, I think Ait-Nouri is the next one to go. And then what I've seen of Bueno, I know he's had a good loan spell at Feyenoord. I'm not sure that you're going to get the same sort of level of output from Bueno as you have Ait-Nouri. And I think, that maybe that's just because he's just a quality footballer. But yeah, I think you can replace. So what I'm trying to get at, I think, is more so. I think you can replace Cunha to some extent, and still be very effective going forward. I think Ait-Nouri is that unique. I don't think we'll find a like for like. I don't think you can even try and replace Ait-Nouri for any amount of money, and that's where I feel anxious that we're going to lose him. To be honest.
I think he's like I said. I think he's probably the most likely other player. Sort of. I think you're more likely to sell him than like João Gomes or Andre, for argument's sake. But Joe, you probably know better than I do in terms of Ait-Nouri versus Bueno. I think Ait-Nouri, you've got obviously the dribbling ability, and the flair, and like I said, he has added those goal contributions. I think with Hugo Bueno, he's probably a little bit more direct, but I think he's got a good delivery on him as well. So you may well still see a decent number of assists, for argument's sake, from Hugo Bueno if he were to come in and be the first choice left wing back next season.
Yeah, I don't think there's much debate that Hugo Bueno's got probably better final delivery, crossing, kind of impacts in the box from deep. But there seems to be a lot of chat about Hugo Bueno having a really good season for Feyenoord. He's had an okay season and he's been in and out of the team.
Yeah.
So, and I know obviously Robin Van Persie's looking at potentially wanting to have another loan, and my argument
Can't
would
see
be
it happening personally, but yeah,
I can't, and my argument would be I don't think we're talking 15, 20 million. I think we're talking more 10-ish. Personally, if Wolves were willing to take a fee, if Feyenoord want him that much, surely they'd want to sign him permanently. A loan doesn't really help anybody. For me, it's night and day. I think Ait-Nouri, as Jord says, Ait-Nouri is a unicorn. They don't grow on trees. I think the Anthony Robinson comparisons that a lot of people make with Ait-Nouri. Anthony Robinson's 28 in August. So there's a good likelihood that Anthony Robinson moves on this summer anyway. But obviously, when you're talking big money, fee, development of a player, because with Ait-Nouri, whilst he's brilliant and he's been really good for us defensively, offensively, kind of carrying the ball, manipulating the ball, still feel like there's another level that he can go.
Agreed.
And I think even to the point where people are questioning 40 million, 45 million for Ait-Nouri, is it enough? I think if you look at some of the wing backs and full backs who've gone in the last couple of years, there are a couple of standouts. I think Hernandez went to Bayern for maybe 80 million euros, and you've got Guardiola. You could argue he's a full back now, but he was signed as a centre back for 90 million euros, something like that. But you don't sign many fullbacks or wing backs for more than 30, 35 million quid. It doesn't really happen. So I think if we were to get 40 or 45 million quid for Ait-Nouri, given the kind of deal with Angers that we'll have to do and kind of buy out the buyout clause, I think 45 million is decent, because I do think Ait-Nouri is very difficult to replace. But you've got to think creatively as a team. We need to be looking at more than just Cunha and Ait-Nouri to be creators in the team. I think if we've got a piece coming out and talking Wolves in the next kind of week or so, when we're looking at what does the current team bring, and we've got, in a strange way, we've got two number 10s outside of excluding Cunha who don't really create anything. So that's a lot of weight on the shoulders of, if you look at the fact that we haven't got any centre backs that really score loads of goals, we've not got wing backs who score loads of goals. Ait-Nouri's been really, really productive in terms of assists, but Semedo doesn't really create that much in terms of assists or goals. Our midfielders don't really score goals, so we've got to start creating from other areas, really. Because at the moment, I think we're reliant on Cunha and Strand Larsen and Ait-Nouri as the creators. That's got to spread around the team a little bit, I think. So if the recruitment's done right, I think we can replace Ait-Nouri, but you're not going to replace him like for like, because that player doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think people, maybe Wolves fans will appreciate this, but I think people outside of the Wolves space probably don't. He's still only 23, Ait-Nouri. He's got 5 full seasons of experience in the Premier League, which is amazing, really, for someone of that age, And it almost feels criminal that it's only going to be sort of 40 to 45 million, but you're right, Joe. The way the market goes, it's rare that I don't think you're going to get much more than that. Obviously, it depends on that deal that with Angers as well, but I think you're right in terms of like getting your output from other areas. I think I saw a debate actually yesterday of people: would you pick Johnny Otto, prime, in his best at Wolves, or Ryan Ait-Nouri? And I think you probably get a split debate there, because Johnny, he picked up the odd goal every now and then, but he's out. I'd have to check. I don't think he's had in terms of contributions. He probably hasn't bettered what Ait-Nouri's given us this season. No. But in terms of defensively and what he offered from the defensive point of view, he was always very, very solid. So I think you're right. Wolves can easily find another left wing back who will do the job of a left wing back. and then use the money from Ait-Nouri to obviously help improve other areas and increase the output elsewhere as well.
I think the style helps as well. I think the system that we play, Semedo and Ait-Nouri are very different in terms of what they do and how they play. Semedo kind of he hugs the byline, doesn't he? He hugs the touchline at any given time. He's there to stretch play. Whereas Ait-Nouri very much narrows it, and Ait-Nouri likes to cut inside. I think the relationship that him and Cunha have is really important. But again, you can create that with any two players. If you look at what we've done with Menetzi and Strand Larsen, bringing Menetzi in, never played with Strand Larsen before, and they fit like a glove. They're playing really well together. So I definitely think there's improvements to be made, but I do think we've got to spread those goals around the team, and even if it's Sarabi has contributed coming in, if substitutes and kind of depth players can come in and get a goal here and there. Because if you look at the likes of Hwang and Gedge and these players, they don't really contribute at all. Whereas if you look at a lot of other teams, they've got players coming on. If you look at Brighton, I don't think Brighton are a fantastic team, but they can bring. They've got Mateo Morrison even in the squad today, and they've got the lad Minter. He's popping up with goals, and they can bring players in from nowhere and they can contribute straight away. I think we've got to be a lot better at that.
Yeah. I was thinking in terms of replacements as well. Just using, obviously, we don't know if this is gospel, but like players like Kirkez or players of that mould, Wolves are heavily linked with Kirkez as well, just months before he joined Bournemouth. So I think in terms of Wolves, I have no doubt Wolves will have their eye on certain players anyway. In the case that Ait-Nouri does go, I think as Wolves fans probably want to keep him, but I think if the right offer comes, and it will probably depend on Hugo Bueno's situation as well. And obviously there've been reports linking us with Samuel Lino from Atletico Madrid. Be interesting to see where he fits in, whether he'll be one of those 10s or whether he'll be as a left wing back. It'd be
on that, because I've seen a lot of people suggesting that he'd be playing in the Cunha position. Simeone's turned him into a left wing back.
He was always like a left back, attacking left back, wasn't he before?
Yeah, and if you look at his kind of the zones that he covers, he's up and down the left hand side. So that straight away kind of negates what Cunha does, because Cunha operates in a kind of 20-yard circle. So I think Lino, whilst he can play on the right, can play on the left, probably could play as a 10. If we were going to sign him now, he's Atletico Madrid and he's kind of connected to George Mendes, so there's every chance that we do. For me, he'd be coming in as an Ait-Nouri replacement, because I don't think we're looking for a bona fide left back to play left wing back, which I think Hugo Bueno is a left back. I don't think he's a wing back. So I'd be interested to see if Hugo Bueno fits in with Vitor Pereira style play. Personally, I don't think he does. But obviously we'll see.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. Quickly touch on the City goal. George, you mentioned earlier on about Andre. Another very good performance from him. I saw a lot of posts about him, but fortunately he was the one that it wasn't just Andre. I think I saw it a couple of times on Friday. We just almost overplayed it a little bit, just one extra touch too many sometimes, rather than just playing the pass or going direct a little bit earlier. Unfortunately for Andre, it was this instance there, and City go down the other end of the pitch. Doku was a little bit of a live wire throughout the game Friday, manages to find De Bruyne, and he's almost been our arch rival, really, hasn't he, De Bruyne? He's got a fantastic record against us, and you know that he was bound to grab a goal or two between now and the end of the season with him obviously leaving City, but just frustrating because after we'd missed those chances, it was going to take a mistake from us, and we just knew with City and their quality they would punish us.
Yeah, and that's why I think people sort of writing City off. I mean, City have had a very poor season for Man City standards, but they're probably going to win an FA Cup, and they've got a good chance of coming second, the way Arsenal are going as well at the minute. And I think that you watch them in a little bit more detail. I saw, again, a lot of people saying like watching City's boring, and I get that. I'd get that as a Man City fan, but they're just so clever, and how Guardiola sets them up, like they just set traps all over the place. And you're all right, like it felt like we overplayed a little bit at times on Friday, but I don't think that's because we were trying to overplay necessarily. I think that they were setting traps to catch us, and they broke us on a couple times where we lost the ball in areas where they could punish us. But again, you watch this Man City team over the last 5, 6, 7 years under Pep. They do it to everyone. And I mean, as soon as we lost the ball in that sort of area, I believe that they were like 4-on-3 or 5-on-3. It felt like very quickly. And yeah, look, De Bruyne is one of arguably one of the best players to ever play in the Premier League, period, like since '92. And I think that's a massive debate. I think people would have him maybe number one in terms of midfielders. I don't probably have him as high as that, but he's an unbelievable footballer. And yeah, like you say, he's been a bit of an arch nemesis for us. But we're saying as Wolves fans, he's probably been an arch nemesis of another 24 teams. You've asked their fans what they think of Kevin De Bruyne. Has probably done that, or consistently.
Probably putting one of the best individual performances at Molineux for one position player as well.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, fancy football. One of my rivals in my league captained him that day, and I just wanted
against Wolves.
Yeah, and I've got this rule: I never play anyone against Wolves. So yeah, I left eight Guardiola points on the bench as well on Friday. But
the most points I ever had was a triple captain Chris Wood for Burnley when he played against us. He got a hat-trick in the first half.
Really? Oh yeah, I think that was an awful game.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah, don't bring winner. To that. Jesus. Yeah, no, look, he's an unbelievable footballer, and I thought about 3 months ago, I don't want to say he was done, but I felt like his legs had completely gone. De Bruyne. I watched him a couple of times, and obviously had some niggling injuries and stuff, but I think he's still got a lot of football left in him, and I think I've got a feeling he'll stay around in the Premier League as well. I think he's got a bit of a point to prove, because I don't know if anyone saw his interview, but he was like, "It's not my decision. Man City have just not offered me the contract." And
where would he go though? You think back to Chelsea?
Villa.
I know I've seen Villa talk. Villa have been talking to him. I think it'd be like huge. I think he might end up at Liverpool.
Yeah. Imagine.
Him and Van Dijk are best mates, aren't they? And you could imagine him like in terms of as like
I could see that
Szoboszlai role. You'd be like,
as a Liverpool fan though, I mean, you'd be buzzing as a Liverpool fan, but you see some of the contracts they've given to some of these players though, aging players on those. But saying that, the amount of money they would have to spend on replacing these players short term.
But you got, I mean, like we talk about replacing certain players, but if you take, if you say you've got to get a Van Dijk replacement and a Salah replacement,
you're true. That'd be
you're paying 200 million, aren't you? Easy.
KDB played in Salah. Oh.
Yeah, I've got a hunch that he might end up there.
That'd be interesting. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we'll wait and see. Anything else to add, boys? I mean, Cunha had the only other half chance really for Wolves, hitting the post, sort of creating a chance out of nothing. But the second half was a little bit dull, wasn't it?
I think got to shout out Agbadou, because I thought he was absolutely incredible for 90 minutes. He was. I think we've seen a lot of good centre back performances over the years, and I think kind of Saïss has had games for us where he was just kind of carrying us defensively. Bolly had periods where he was the same, but that performance and kind of in that whole winning run, to be honest, for me, he's the best centre back I've seen play for Wolves. I think over a relatively prolonged period of time, since he came in, and this is coming into a new league, in a new setup, new surroundings, new manager to the team, not even just to him, under a new manager. I don't think he's been spoken about enough outside of kind of Wolves circles. Even like Jamie Carragher mentioned how good he played on Friday, but I don't think there's a better centre back than him in the Premier League, genuinely, in terms of what he does for his team and defensively what he does. There's times where City were dropping the ball into the box and he'd like bring it down on his knee, flick it over somebody, play it out to the midfielder, and you're thinking, it's just not normal. This is another level, and I think it should be spoken about more. I'm kind of glad it isn't, but I think the age profile that we've signed him at, we've probably missed that kind of. I think a lot of the kind of the hype that players get is generally built around Sky Sports wanting to get players moved so they can talk about it more. So I think because he's 28 or whatever he is, Sky Sports aren't really interested because there's nothing in it for them. So I think if we can keep him to the end of his contract at 32, I think we'll have, by the end of his contract, we'll have the best centre back to ever play for Wolves. I think if we stay in the Premier League in that time, which I think we will be.
I think there's a good chance of that. To be fair, I think definitely. I don't like to over-sensationalize. Well, you know what I'm trying to say. Like I can't even get out.
I don't actually.
No, I'm not. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop there. But no, I feel like yeah, we're over people
sensationalise it. Yeah,
that's what I was trying to get at. There we go. With him being here for like 4 months, but like in terms of an impact he's made since he's come in, I don't think I've seen a greater one from a player in recent years. And I think to say the best centre back in our lifetimes that we've seen at Wolves, I think he's on that trajectory. I think for me, historically, I've always had Les Scott and Dean Richards as like the two, but I think quite comfortably he could get there pretty quickly because, like you say, Joe, like some of the things he was doing in the game on Friday, it's like no Wolves defender should be doing that. I've never seen Gary Breen or Christophe Berra try that.
But we've seen lots of centre backs
do it once or twice.
We've seen lots of centre backs for Wolves head balls at the box, and we saw Kilman be really good in the air and kind of decent on the floor. But the fact that he's so good at both sides of it and he's so dominant, and I think he can't be overplayed. What he's done with Toti and with Doherty, who were openly lauded as absolute shit by most of our fan base before he came in, and then he's come in and everyone's openly saying that this back three is absolutely incredible. And I think it kind of harps me back to there's a good video that Vitor Pereira did with is it Coach's Voice or whatever it is that one where he spoke about that Porto team that he was the manager of, and he talks about a kind of the back four that they operated with a box midfield and a front three, and I kind of it made me think, could we have this debate where we maybe move to a back four again eventually to get an extra get a six in there maybe to allow Joe Gomes to get forward? Is it possible? Because I think this summer would probably, if we lost Ait-Nouri and Semedo, we can reprofile the fullbacks a little bit and maybe have a look at how we do it. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a big risk. I don't think we will do it.
Yeah.
But I think it opens that question up of, if you go a centre back like at Agbadou, does that allow us to play a back four? Personally, I think it'd be a possibility, but I don't think it will happen.
I think the fact that he's in that, the middle of that back three. I think, you talk about even in the modern, in the sort of the Fosun era, we've had some great centre backs. From Bolly, even Cody, you would put in that. The fact that Agbadou could come in and like you've just said there, just sit in the middle of that, the heart of that back three, be good at pretty much everything that he needs to be good at. I think if you said to a Wolves fan on the 1st of January, right, your back three for the rest of the season is going to be a new centre half, Toti Gomes and Matt Doherty, like, shit, we're going down. Yeah. But wow, they're all, and I think Vitor's got to take credit for that as well, because he makes the decisions on who to play. As soon as Nasajiga came in, he could have put him straight in there. He could have kept Santi Bueno in there, but Agbadou was injured, came straight back in for that Everton game, and was absolutely phenomenal in that Everton game and onwards. He made Beto, who was on a good form at that point. He made him look like he was a 12-year-old kid.
It's funny because he still has parts of his game where he still drops a ricket in every game.
Yeah,
he'll give the ball away in a bad position in every game, but you still come out of it thinking it was absolutely incredible. And if you're one of the Man City forwards, I think Doku was kind of key in the game, but he didn't really do anything of note significantly, really, from off the top of my head anyway. But if you're a Man City,
but we kept him fairly quiet,
although he didn't dominate the game, did he? But like, players coming through the middle, I think Gundogan's always a player who can cause us problems centrally. Didn't see anything, nothing at all come through the middle. And naturally, I think the fact that they've got Doku sends them wide anyway. But nothing came through the middle. Man City have always played through us in the past, straight through us. But I think with that spine that we spoke about, that back three, the two in midfield and Strand Larson up top, it's a really tight unit. I think it's really good to see.
It would have been a good test to see him versus Haaland, I suppose. Maybe we can wait to learn.
He'd have just.
Well, I don't know if you saw, he did an interview with Sky Sports that was published earlier on Friday, and he said he loves these sort of games because he wants to challenge himself against the best forwards in the world. And we've seen him, he matched up against some of the best players so far and beaten them. So I think next season, for a player to come in to a brand new league that he's never played in before, you can speak good English, but not his first language, and just sort of fit in like he's been there for years and years. It's fantastic. I think that the Wolves, the recruitment team, have got to take a lot of credit for that as well, because he wasn't spoke about much at all. And that they've obviously identified someone who's good at or very decent at what they're after, and it's been an unbelievable fit so far.
Well, I think we were quite widely publicised that we were in for Kusanov as well. I think Kusanov going to Man City is going to cause Kusanov a problem in the long run, because that standard that he's going to be held to is probably going to be slightly above him in the way it probably would be for Agbadou. But coming in at this level with Wolves into the Premier League is a perfect platform. Not so much for Agbadou, because I don't think he'd have seen it as well. I can move to Wolves at 28, then move to Man City at 30, because that's unlikely to happen. But for someone like Kusanov, obviously Wolves picked him up through the scouting system that they operate. That they picked Kusanov and Agbadou and other centre backs, I think, up in France that would fit the mould. And I think that's if we're going to continue to operate that model, it's going to be really successful for us, because we're not going to be spending. We've spoke, haven't we, about the likes of Gedge costing us so much money and Fabio Silva costing us so much money. They have to perform to the top of their ability all of the time to make them look like they're worth the money. You buy a player for 15 million quid. If you buy 5 players for 15 million quid and 3 of them are half decent and 2 of them are okay, you've done well.
Yeah.
So it's, I think the scouting kind of route that we're taking now, and the kind of players that we're looking at, the profile of players that we're looking at, is really interesting. And as a scout and as someone who's interested, it's really interesting as a Wolves fan to see what we do this summer. Because if they're the likes of players that we've picked up, it'd be interesting to see what happens in the summer as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Looking ahead as well, then, lads, to Saturday. Like I said, I won't be watching it live. Wolves hosting Brighton. Got a 1-1 draw today against Newcastle. Jord, looking at the final 3 fixtures, we've got Brighton at home, Palace away, Brentford at home. You're hoping that Wolves get some points back on the board, and you know, if he can finish 13th, I think it might be a little bit of a stretch to finish above Palace, but you don't know. But to finish that 13th, 14th place, you think there'll be many points for Wolves to have over the next few weeks?
I could be completely overshooting it here, but I think we could. I think we can get 9.
Mm-hmm.
I just look at the fixture and go, well, I actually don't fear anyone at the minute. I mean, we never go to Sellers Park and win, but the fact that it's
just after the FA
Cup final,
they could be hurt, or they could be on a high. You don't know.
yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, like, you know, it could be either or, but I think all their energy and focus is going to be in that FA Cup final, and rightly so. Brighton, I can't work them out this year. I can't work out if Herzl's done a good job or not. Like, I think he has. But then
they could still get European football, but from the outside, there is a lot of negativity, I think, towards it.
It doesn't feel like, again, I don't exactly follow Brighton every week, but it doesn't feel like they've won many games recently. I know they started off quite well.
Won 1 in the last 5, I think, just judging off the last, off the recent form table.
So I think, like, you know, Brighton coming to Molineux on Saturday, there's no reason why we can't beat them. Brentford on the last day of the season, no reason why we can't beat them either. So no, but again, that's just because Vitor Pereira's installed the confidence in me, maybe an arrogance and cockiness. I just think we can go and beat everyone now. The only thing, the caveat is that because we're purely safe now, and the other teams we're playing haven't really got much to play for. I know Brighton and Brentford can probably get Conference League, depending if there's a caveat for 8th place and whatever. The caveat is that I think we could win all 3, but this is where you get batshit results and crazy results because weird things will happen. Like, just you'll see a few like 5-2s and 6-4s and something flying around over the next few weeks, and we could be involved in some of them. But yeah, you know, if you're asking me right now, do I think we can get a positive result on Saturday? Absolutely, why not?
Yeah, I agree. I think like you said with Brighton, it's actually 1 win in 7 for them. The draw today against Newcastle. They beat West Ham last week, then lost to Brentford, draw with Leicester, lost to Palace, lost to Villa, then drew with City. So their form is just all over the place. They've actually been okay away from home. 6 wins, 5 draws, 6 losses. So they've been pretty, consistent. You don't really know what you're going to expect. But Joe, I mean, I sort of shared Jord's thoughts a little bit. I'm not going to say it's a definite 9 points, but I don't think there's any reason why Wolves can't be getting 6 to 7 points at least from those games. Or maybe we're getting a little bit too overexcited. I don't know. But on paper, you would feel that Wolves can go toe-to-toe with those 3 teams that we mentioned, especially with 2 of the games at Molineux.
Yeah, I think if Strand Larsen's back, which I think it looks like he will be, it looks like it's only a minor injury. So I think if Strand Larsen's back and we can put a full-strength team out for the last 3 games, we should be looking at winning a couple and going unbeaten. Personally, I think would be a good return. That Palace game's the one. I think Brighton and Brentford at home in our run of form should be 2 wins. Personally, I think Brentford have shipped 3 goals to United today to kind of much change United team. So we should be kind of having some opportunities against them. I think Brighton, the scoreline flatters them today from what I saw. I think Newcastle's XG was nearly 2, I think. So I don't know. Obviously they had a penalty in that as well, I think, with Isak. But I don't think either of them are great teams. I think even when we played Brentford at the height of Gary O'Neill's powers in October, I think it was, and I know they beat us, but we cut through them at times, even at that point. So neither of those teams scare me. I think if Palace went and beat Man City, won the FA Cup, it'd be a little bit after the Lord Mayor's show. If we were playing them a few days after, it'd be a good opportunity to go there and beat them. I do remember going to Sellers Park and Matt Doherty bagging a winner in the last 10 minutes. So I've got good memories down there. I like to think we can get some positive results in all 3 of them games.
I'm tempted to do that Palace away game, and I've been twice in the last couple of years, and I've said after each one I'm never coming here again. And for whatever reason, the following season I ended up going. The first one
it's rare, mate, isn't it? That kind of stadium and on a midweek shithole ground, it's
horrible to get to and out as well. Though, we went Jord, didn't we? That was a midweek. Hugo Bueno's debut under Steve Davis whips in an unbelievable ball for Adama. Yeah. I think it was Zaha, didn't it? Second half, just
Zaha. So we didn't see the first goal, did we? We were still having a drink.
The burger. The burger there was unbelievable. I've got to say that.
That was it was one of those, because I was working down in London. I've seen a client, and I was like, "Yeah, Dave, get me a ticket. I'll come and meet you." Because you just think you're in London, Palace in London. It's going to be half hour on the tube.
3 hours.
I
had to get to Waterloo, and then it was like an overground train, and then back up. It took me about an hour and 20 minutes. I think Dave beat me home back to my hotel. It's ridiculous.
Oh, the last time I went, Sunday afternoon, we lost. Was it 3-2 or something like that, or 2-1? No, it was 3-2, I think, last season. And it took me an hour just to get out of Crystal Palace itself. It was awful.
Yeah,
I hated it.
Did Wang score in that game?
Wang, and then Cunha scored right at the end, I think, as well. Yeah. I'd walked out as Cunha scored, and I was like, shit, I've got to do a video, so I had to go on Twitter to see his goal, just to talk about it. I turned into a proper plastic and left early, but I don't know, man. I'm tempted to do it. I think the tickets go on sale in the next couple of days.
I'll be honest with you, Dave. I'm not going on a Tuesday night again.
You couldn't pay me to go.
We'll jump onto the questions. There've been some good questions, to be fair, and bits that I have wanted to touch on as well. Callum, WWFC 1, thoughts on the Dan Purdy appointment. Now, for those who haven't seen, Wolves have been linked. It's not confirmed or anything yet, but have been linked that they're about to appoint the current head of recruitment, or chief scout, as some people have put it, from Everton, Dan Purdy. Only a youngish guy, but he's worked alongside Kevin Felwell, who was obviously the former sporting director at Wolves as well. As you would expect, this has come with mixed reaction when he's been at Everton, whose recruitment's been a little bit all over the place. Obviously, there will be some scepticism, but Joe, I had a quick chat with you about this before we started. I don't actually think this is a bad appointment. And when you actually sort of sit back and look at the actual finer details and what he's done to help Everton in certain situations, I think this could be an interesting appointment for Wolves.
I think it'd be a really interesting appointment, considering he's already left Everton as well, I think. So I don't think it changes anything structurally or procedurally in terms of how Wolves operate as a scouting business, but I think it adds the data string to the bow, because that's Purdy's experience. He used to be a performance analyst. He's come through managing data, really. But I think he comes in fairly high regard. Me and you spoke about it, he's been involved in a lot of what look like very sensible transfers. The likes of Jake O'Brien, Illiman and Joy. He was key with them signing Amadou Onana, and obviously then they've sold him on for big money to Villa. So it's a funny one with Everton, and I'm not in the know on this, but I can only assume there's certain assurances they can't go and spend 100 million quid in the summer, which, speaking from experience on a much lower level, but speaking from experience, it makes your job very difficult. If you're employed solely to recruit players and you can't recruit any players, fundamentally that's a problem. We've all been there in jobs where we've got a budget that we've got to stick to, and it's just completely not conducive to what you want to do. So I can only imagine, obviously with Kevin Thelwell going, it looks like a bit of an open door, sliding doors moment of, right,
Fresh
where
start.
do I go? I think he could probably complement Ben Wrigglesworth, scouting team, Matt Hobbs, and this current setup well, but you never know, do you? I think could it result in changes? Possibly, but I think he's a really good appointment and kind of sensible for the club to get more football people in through the door, because it's, with scouting, there's no signing, no matter how obvious it seems, is guaranteed to work. So I think it's a really good appointment, really sensible appointment, and someone who's obviously got Premier League experience in another Premier League club, which can't hurt either.
Yeah, I think there's an article from, I think it's the Guardian or the Telegraph, talking about him a short while ago. Obviously, Everton, before he was in the role that he was in, were very similar to Wolves, to be fair. Signing players like Andre Gomes and Allen, big fees on players that just didn't work in the Premier League. He was part of Everton. I think he was held back massively financially because he helped Kevin Thelwell with potential moves for Morgan Gibbs-White when he was at Wolves. If you remember, Everton were quite heavily linked with him to start with. Brennan Johnson, Mohamed Kudus as well. Obviously, ended up at West Ham. And this article is talking about how they've looked at younger targets like Onana, who you mentioned. McNeil was one as well, I suppose, as well. Obviously, they've got the resale value there. Sensible signings, which we've mentioned. Players like Tarkowski as well. Tarkowski, get my words out. Free agent, and at the time, I think a few teams looked at him, but it's just sensible business, and he's been their centre half ever since. And I think that's obviously the way that Wolves have wanted to go over the last 18 months, 2 years. And I think that, like you said, Joe, just adds someone who knows what they're doing, and and adding that sort of common sense. So I think it's important because there were a lot of comments from people that didn't really understand it. It's Everton have been shit, their recruitment's been shit. But I think if you sit back and actually look at the facts and figures, it could be a really interesting appointment.
A lot of people are questioning what that means for Matt Hobbs as well, whereas it's like signing a 17-year-old left back and asking what that means for Ryan Ait-Nouri. Doesn't change anything. It's just another guy in there in a kind of different hierarchical spot to feed into Matt Hobbs. Yeah. But they'll take a different approach with their recruitment, of course, if we're taking somebody new in. But I don't think it's a bad appointment at all.
No, definitely. Let's jump into the question. Harry Gill, one gorilla versus 100 men. Who wins? This has been going around. I actually saw, what's his name? Dara, the menace off The Chase. Don't know if anyone watches The Chase. And he did a podcast. He goes, there's only one real answer. And he thinks the 100 men would win. He says only because, but I think his logic's a little bit flawed. He says because of the weight of the men, if they all somehow jumped on the gorilla, it would die. But you've got to get to the gorilla and jump on him first because he's better.
I've had this conversation as well. I think first of all you've got to get to the gorilla. I've heard theories about 10 if you just get his arm, 10 will get a leg, 10 will get another leg. It's like when you got a silverback gorilla swinging at you. Fucking it's not as simple as just trying it.
They're not that tall, but their arm span is absolutely ridiculous.
I wouldn't go anywhere near one.
Yeah,
not even with 99 blokes behind me. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near one.
Stand aside out for you.
Scary fuckers, big, powerful things. Just don't want to be anywhere near them. The thing is how fucked up the world is. And again, don't condone any sort of animal cruelty or anything, but I've just got a feeling that China's going to put it to the test. Someone's going to just drop people in a cage.
The new Takeshi's Castle, that is.
Yeah, no, I genuinely think something's going to happen, and I'm like, I really hope it doesn't, but I've just...
I can't hope it does.
No, you probably see that on the next series of Squid Game, innit? On the next series of Squid Game, that will.
Yeah.
Whoever comes out alive wins,
I don't know. I saw people making fantasy lists as well. Big John would be one of them. So put all these people in. Put all these people in. I'm I think in theory 100 men should win just from a numerical advantage. But if you get anywhere near the span of a silverback gorilla, they're splitting you in two. They're just literally pulling you apart.
Okay, so I've got two invitations here for you, Jord.
Go on.
You'd be part of a 100 men crew The first one is to fight the gorilla. The second one's to see Bonnie Blue. Who you
You know what? I'd
probably fit the gorilla personally.
Yeah, I reckon you could catch all sorts from Bonnie Blue. So I'd
probably risk death, to be honest.
You're more in danger there, aren't you?
Yeah, I think you just have to go for the gorilla in that scenario.
Yeah. Like I said, a few people had asked about the Dan Purdy appointment, so hopefully we cleared that up as well. There's some ropey questions, by the way, this week. Sorry.
Come on, guys. Let's get some better questions.
I know. Was Jack Taylor's winner? This is from Ryan, Northbound Ryan. Was Jack Taylor's winner for Ipswich the most important goal of Wolves' season? I think we've had this conversation a few times, Joe. I think Gary O'Neill was probably going to be the showing the door either way. I think a point against Ipswich may have kept him his job for another game or so. But I think that was quite an important moment for Wolves, despite us losing the game.
I think it felt like a big moment at the time. I think in the grand scheme of things, it's probably not ended up being that big of a moment. Because I think even with Gary O'Neill manager, we'd have probably still finished 10 points clear of Ipswich, if I'm honest. Which isn't any kind of vindication of Gary O'Neill, by the way. But there's been some big moments that genuinely feel like big moments for me this season. In games, particularly at the Molineux. I think the Man United game. I think on Boxing Day felt like a big game. The Leicester game, the first Vitor Pereira's first game, I think, at Leicester away, felt like a big game because it felt like a sea change. But obviously, it was a big goal. It is a big goal to see, in the fact that it gave Ipswich a little bit of they could smell the blood maybe, but the fact is that's shit. So it didn't really matter. The fact that we even lost that game is embarrassing to me. I think that would have been on par with losing to Southampton or Leicester. All three of them are absolute toss.
Yeah.
So it was a big moment, and it probably was the trigger. But we also lost Cunha off the back of that game for the first time. So it was thank God it didn't mean anything really in the end.
Yeah. Amar's Music Show asked about Ait-Nouri and his value, which you've already answered. Yaz asked about Lino. I need to figure out, how is it Lino, would you say?
Be Lino.
About his position, which we've already answered as well. Ronan's got an interesting one. Jord, would you take Jack Grealish as the Cunha replacement? Probably couldn't afford his wages, but thought he'd be an interesting replacement. I don't think he'd join anyway.
As I say, who says no to that? Jack Grealish.
Yeah.
He needs to get out of Man City. Generally, he needs to get out of Man City and play football. He's too good to be sitting on the bench and be a bit part player, but he'll be
He would be. I think he would suit our system, by the way. But yeah, he would.
Oh God! If Jack Grealish wants to come to Molineux, I'd go and pick him up. Go drive up the M6 now and go and get him. But he ain't coming to Wolves. I think he'll end up back up Villa, to be honest with you, especially to get European football again.
I don't think he will. I think he's got this kind of pattern of English players going to Italy and British players going to Italy for some kind of remontada, like the kind of Scott McTominay, Tammy Abraham type vibe. I can see him going to Italy because I think he'd do well there. I know absolutely nothing to suggest
Spurs,
that.
I can.
Nah, that's surely, a graveyard, isn't it? Spurs.
Anybody, I don't think you can fit Maddison and Grealish in the same team either. But surely any player looking at Spurs this season must be thinking, I'll give it 12 months because this is an absolute batshit crazy place to go.
But there could be 90 minutes away from potentially 90 minutes away from Champions League football, but both of them, to be fair, Man United and Spurs are probably going to play each other in a final, and it's like, what?
It'd be a great game to watch that all, by the way. I know there'd
be a lot of jeopardy on it.
Brilliant, yeah.
What, that Europa League final?
Yeah, I think Amaroon's probably safe regardless if he loses, but Ange has got to win the game, save his job.
I think he'll get the sack anyway. I think a lot of Spurs fans seem to think he's going to be gone anyway, even if they do win this. And I always win a trophy in my second season, mate. But I think they're probably
with us.
Mate, what an impression. I think Spurs will win that, unfortunately, which is crazy, really. But I think it'd be interesting to see how that second leg goes against Bodo Glimt because
that's going to be tough, isn't it?
But the fact that they got a goal back, 3-1, I think Spurs are just, if they concede the first goal, they'll fall apart.
I agree with that as well. I think they've got to score first, haven't they? Otherwise, I think they're in trouble.
On the plastic pitch.
I've got a question. How people have been saying this year, the Premier League's been worse in terms of. I think the jeopardy of the Premier League's been a lot worse this year. But the fact that you're going to potentially have Spurs and Man United in the Europa League final, does that not just show that the Premier League's stronger?
Yeah, you got
in a way of so I think people are saying, well, the quality's not there or not as good as it has been. But for me, I'm like, but I think
the
it's
quality's
more
there. I think teams,
the quality in the top six probably. I think the Premier League's getting a bit more diluted there. The lesser teams, including us, have got more quality, and it's squashing. We're getting closer. There's probably Liverpool, Man City, and Arsenal that I'd put put a line, and then
it's anyone's game. Then I think you're right. I think City would have made more of a fight of it. Obviously, Haaland's been in and out with injury. Rodri's a massive loss. Spurs, to be fair, even with them, they've had injuries. To be fair to Ange, United is just all over the place. I think it's been just a probably better season. I think there's just people that it's probably most of them are from social media, from top six fans, and when things aren't going their way outside of Liverpool, then they're going to say, "Oh, it's been a crap season." I've seen those from Arsenal fans because they've not even got close to the title really.
It's because the and Sky, his thing is though, like the broadcasters want jeopardy, and there's no jeopardy, is there?
Yeah.
Like the final game of the season, they're probably going to be showing games where it's like the race for 5th place,
the race for 12th,
and it's just crap in it from that sort of sense. But that's sort of my opinion on. I just think the quality is just more spread around the league now.
I've got an interesting one because I heard an interesting take the other day, and I was interested to see what you two think. It was Lars Sivertsen actually on a podcast talking about the Conference League and the merits of having Premier League teams play in it, given the fact that Chelsea are probably going to win it. And obviously what the Conference League was brought in to do was to give teams that wouldn't maybe qualify for Europe from lesser leagues a chance to win a tournament and progress into the Europa League, etc. And obviously Chelsea have won it, West Ham have won it. And the kind of question that was posed to him was, well, if a team like Bournemouth or Brighton or Brentford qualified for it, how would you feel about that? And he's like, well, I still think that's not what it's there for. Any team that gets £170 million a year in TV money, why are they going into the Europa Conference League and playing against, fucking Romanian farmers? I think that's a really good take. Like, I think the European fact that I've always found it odd that this season you could potentially finish 10th and qualify for Europe, which would mean 50% of teams in a 20-team league are playing in Europe. Like, whereas in certain leagues, you have to finish, some leagues where there's 15 or 12 teams, you've got to win the league to only get into the qualifiers, even of the Conference League. So I'd be interested to see what your thoughts are on that, because I find that absolutely crazy, really.
But I guess for me, like I think that there's just too much anyway in terms of, I think, again, it could be a bit old-fashioned, but I do think like the Champions League should be the winners of every European league should go in the Champions League, and then you can maybe do second and third going into the Europa League, and if you want to have a Conference League, fourth or the winners of the domestic cups,
League Cup,
yeah. I think West Ham winning the Conference League was a good thing. In my opinion, it's a good thing because it's someone different that doesn't typically win things. It gives hope for teams like us, Brentford, Brighton's, all that sort of stuff. Where you go, you know what? And the Europa League campaign we had was ruined by COVID, but whilst it was going on, was unbelievable to go and play all these different teams and have these experiences and whatever. Chelsea that's the problem though. Like, Chelsea fell into the Conference League and they've basically taken the piss with it all year. In terms of Palmer wasn't even registered. They've been playing random players who aren't even kicking a ball in the Premier League. And even the team that played in the semi-final last week, I looked at the 11 just to have a look at it.
Aren't part of them part-timers, or am I making that up?
Mate, some of the team, they played Shamrock Rovers, didn't they? In the thingy, but they played Jurgen's.
Yeah. It might have been someone on the wind-up, but the team they're playing, I'm sure.
I'm not sure they can't. No, they'll be fully pro because they're in the Swedish.
Yeah, Jurgen's. They're. But the thing that was going around there, Dave, was with Bodo Glimt, who Tottenham are playing. Bodo Glimt were in the Norwegian second division maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah,
and they were almost effectively semi-pro. But Djurgården, if you get to Sweden, they're a very vociferous group of fans. Take it very seriously.
Yeah, but I looked, going back to it, but I looked at the Chelsea team just for purely on Sky Sports Score Centre, and they were playing, and again, no disrespect, but they're playing Tyreek George, Keenan Dewsbury-Hall, who's someone I've been seeing linked with us recently, but he was playing, and he don't make a Premier League matchday squad at the minute, and all this sort of stuff, and they're going to win 4-1 in a semi-final away from home. It's sort of that I do agree to that extent.
It makes a bit of a mockery of it, doesn't it?
The Conference League's not really made for a team like Chelsea, but if Chelsea have been that bad, and you're doing the merit of football and where they're finishing the Premier League season, they were crap last year for their standards, and they fell into it, and they don't really want to be in it. They've took the piss out of it all year, and they're probably going to win it. I think is it Betis and Fiorentina.
Yeah.
If Fiorentina lost the final to West Ham the year before, didn't they?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they played Fiorentina or Betis, that's not as much of a mockery because they're both very solid European outfits, respectable European outfits, but you'd still expect Chelsea to go and beat them.
Yeah, you would. I suppose it's from a Wolves perspective, it's always a good kind of carrot to have at the end of the stick in the fact that if you can finish 8th or 9th, there is a world where you do finish in Europe, which is obviously brilliant for us and any team in the Premier League. But if you look at it through the lens of if you want other clubs in other countries to develop, which me as a fan of, I'll sit here and watch any game of any league. For some reason, I got Rangers Celtic on the other side of the room, which is as low level as you could possibly look to watch. But you want to see competitive football, don't you? And when teams who finish 8th in the Premier League qualifying for the Conference League and get into the semi-finals, finals, and they've got they're selling their own stadium to themselves to be able to buy another £100 million centre forward that's probably end up being shit. Like it seems wrong to me. I think the way the Premier League's going, obviously as a club in that, I think it's important to touch on it because whilst we're fans of our local club, we're also, even you look at the Football League and how distant the Premier League's looking compared to the Football League now, and you look at the bottom 3 this season, how distant they are away from even us who haven't had a particularly good season. I think it's an interesting point because that kind of void is growing, and it's good for us to be on the right side of it. But it only takes one disastrous season for us never to see it ever again.
Yeah.
So I think it's got to be discussed because it's in 10 years' time, if we're still where we are, we'll never get relegated. We'll be in the top flight in English football forever because that's how it'll go.
I completely agree with that. And I think, and I'll shut up and let Dave have his point on it. But going back to what you said about that competition, like in that 32-man league this year for the Conference League, you got TNS who were playing at Shrewsbury.
Yeah.
You had Shamrock Rovers, like I said, but you also had Larne who were like from Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Like say if you offered a Wolves and saying you're going to win the Conference League, but you played champions of Wales, champions of Northern Ireland, champions of Republic of Ireland, would you feel like we're European? It would feel a bit hollow, wouldn't it? To say, well, we've had harder pre-season tournaments, in all fairness to that. But but then moving on to what you're saying about the Premier League, Joe, bang on what you say. I think we're only a couple of seasons away from it being almost like this Americanized monopoly where they don't want relegation and stuff. And it's coming to that point where the 17 staples of the Premier League, including us, are probably going to be too rich and too good to ever go down. So the gap's only getting bigger. Yeah. And I think if we survive another 3 years, it'll take a disaster for us to go down or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Get Gary O'Neill back.
that might be level the play.
We were talking beforehand, Joe, about the Crusaders game. We've both gone to Crusaders. We had them in the qualifying round. I think that was an unbelievable game to go to be able to say you've gone to, but I don't think I could have coped with that all throughout the tournament. I think the fact that bar Crusaders and Punic, who we played the following round, everyone from there, we played Torino at the time, a very good team, had Belotti.
Yeah.
Our group, actually on paper, was really, Besiktas were awful in the end, but our group was really tricky on paper. We had Braga, I say that, Slovan Bratislava, who were capable, and Besiktas. But like we had tough games, and that's what it was about, really. We went toe-to-toe with them, which was so good about our European thing. But you're right, I think with the amount of money now that the Premier League teams are getting as well, Bournemouth, Brighton, whoever gets the Conference League should give very good games, if not be better than 95% of the other teams in that Conference League tournament.
I think it was the Conference League that Villa were in last season, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. They got knocked out to
That was that Fiorentina? I want to say Fiorentina.
I think it was Fiorentina in the quarters because they beat.
I thought Villa would walk that. I thought they'd smash it.
Villa should have absolutely pissed that competition.
Oh no, I know they got knocked out too. It was Olympiacos in the quarters.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
The Dent scored, didn't he?
Oh yeah, what a bloke!
Yeah.
That's one of the things where it takes like an upset like that to do it, and for me, it feels morally wrong that we can pump. I don't necessarily think Bournemouth, Brighton, Wolves, those teams. I think it's probably made for those kind of teams. It's made for us, that the kind of teams on the outskirts of Europe. But then you've literally got the countries where the teams are winning their league, and they've got to qualify for the Conference League in lieu of a team finishing 11th in the Premier League.
The Champions League with the Champions would be good, because I think they probably worried that it's going to get boring, and obviously money is the thing. You know, if you've got like 9-10 games a week where you're getting 50+ K crowds, obviously you're going to make money. But I think, you know, you are going to get different scenarios every year, because the top 5 leagues, maybe not in France as such, but Germany's been a bit more competitive. But you're going to get different teams from 3 or 4 of those leagues. Then you throw in the Portuguese league winners. You know, no doubt you'll have an upset along the way as well. You know, this Turkish league, you know, there's going to be capable teams, and then it gives an opportunity to those champions, you know, of the leagues as well. You know, Chelsea or Man City in Malta. That's what everyone wants to see, really. You know, but you know,
Yeah,
very quickly, lads, we'll finish off with 2 questions. The main one, which I should have brought up way earlier, from Sohan: what are our thoughts on the player-supporter interaction with the holding hands at the end of the game? Now, I made a comment on this, and I thought it wasn't the right thing to do. I have watched it back, like from another angle, and it seemed the right intentions from Vitor, to be fair. I think if I was I'd much rather him do that than just walk off and not acknowledge your fans. Let me say that. But at the time, I thought, what are we doing? But I've sort of warmed to it a little bit more, but I'm still not for me, I don't think. Joe, I saw you put a post out that you're not that bothered about it.
No, I think, and this is funny coming from us, you can be in danger of kind of overanalyzing everything. I think I saw Nathan Jord did a poll on how everyone feels about it, which I think is not really needed, if I'm honest. But I think everyone's going to have an opinion on it, first of all, as with everything in football. That doesn't necessarily mean everyone's opinion is needed. And I think whilst we're all on social media, we'll all post our opinions. I did it, you did it. For me, it doesn't really bother me. I think it's one of the things where, like you say, you'd rather them do that than not. And I think someone replied to me and kind of said, yeah, but if another team did that, you'd take the piss out of them. Yeah, again, football fans are ridiculous. I would absolutely take the piss out of another team if they did that. But it's one of the things where I think after six games winning, I think it's good to show a bit of solidarity that we've lost the game, but it doesn't really matter. We're moving on. We'll go and play again next week, and we'll try and win it. I don't think it's really a problem for me. I'd already turned the telly off by that point. To be fair.
I didn't see it either, to be fair.
The first time I saw it was people whinging about it. So it's one of those things where if no one films it in the ground or takes a photo of it, no one even knows it's happened. But because it's all over social media, I think some of our fans, not so much, not you, Dax, I think you were just giving your opinion on it when someone else had tweeted it, but our own fans taking photos of it in the ground and putting it on Twitter saying this is fucking ridiculous. What are you achieving with that? Like you just go out the ground and go and get a beer. We can move on. But the only people you're making look stupid there are yourselves. So I don't really think it's a problem personally.
What do you think, Jord?
I don't want to see it again.
Yeah.
But I sort of understand what he was trying to do. He was trying to show we're together through winning and losing. I just don't think that's the right way of going about it. And I think in other countries, it would have gotten a more positive sentiment from all fans in the ground and out the ground and viewing it on social media.
Very German thing, isn't it, that?
Yeah, look, I didn't like... I'm not a massive fan of it. I mean, I didn't tweet about it either way because, again, I was like, I honestly don't care enough either way about, to be honest with you. But I think the fact we've won 6 in a row and he's done it, I can let it go. If we'd have lost 3 in a row and then he'd have done that, and we're in a relegation dogfight, I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? But I think you just let it slide. But you are right. I think people putting it out there for other, like you say, Joe, like if other, you take a piss out of other fans, other teams that did it, yeah, you would. So why would you put something out there that's gonna potentially get the piss taken out of the thing that you love or you're invested in? I don't get it. I
completely get Judah doing it. He's a
but Judah's doing it. No, Judah's doing post the event the next day on.
Yeah,
people
Judah
having an
quoted
opinion
that
on it,
post that
going,
you're
well,
talking about as well, Joe. So
what's the acid test of it? My problem with it is like people taking photos, and people were taking photos and uploading it, and videos as well, which I know you commented on, Dave. And it's like you basically just open yourselves up to get fucking shot at.
Embarrassing yourself, yeah.
Yeah, but some people do it because they know they want the interactions anyway.
But then I think what I think is what's probably more embarrassing is you can go one deeper and go, but there's fans who have like drove up the M6, gone to Manchester, like cheered back, and like you're thinking, well, look, the players on the pitch are going in $100,000 a week and Vitor's telling them to that. You're like clapping them back, and you've just watched a defeat. So
voluntarily,
yeah. So it's like, well, is it second-hand embarrassment? Like that's what I'm getting at. It's like, and again, like I'm caveating it all with, I just didn't comment on it because I thought I understand what he was trying to do. I just don't think it was the right thing to do. But then people taking photos saying, "Oh, this is embarrassing." So if you're cheering back, then you're encouraging it to happen again.
I found it really interesting the logic behind standing in a football ground, filming something your own team are doing that you think is embarrassing, and posting it on social media, and then complaining when people respond to you saying, "What have you posted?" Because it's fair enough. If you stand in the ground and think, "Fucking hell, this is embarrassing," then fair enough.
Oh, but to be fair, at the end of the day, if there's so little going wrong on the pitch that we're having to have a debate about this, then it shows that we're probably doing okay on the pitch at the moment.
In fairness, and this has come lower down the mark than one gorilla versus 100.
No, to be fair, I should have asked it during when we were talking about the game. It was literally on my to-do list. I just missed it off. So, final question, lads, quick fire. Chris said, who would you want to win the Championship playoffs to join Wolves in the Premier League next season? So it's Sheffield United, Sunderland, Bristol City and Coventry. For me, in an order, I'll probably go, I want someone different. I'll probably go Bristol City, Cov, Sunderland, Sheffield United in that order, I would say. Joe?
Yeah, I think, well, one of my pals is a Cov fan, and I was at the Cov Luton game when they lost on penalties just through getting a thing, and like I actually, I felt really bad from that. So for that, I've got a sort of very loosely an emotional attachment that I'd want Coventry to do because I know someone that I'd love them to get back in there. I think it's Coventry or Bristol City because Bristol City is a great away day. Coventry's obviously a local away day, and I feel like we owe them a little bit from the quarter-final, to be honest with you, to play them again. But I mean, not necessarily Coventry, but Bristol City. Looking at that Bristol City team, if they come up, I know we played them in the FA Cup earlier, but that needs a lot of money. They're still playing Narky Wells. He was like
Jesus.
He was like a bagsman 10 years ago for Bradford in the League Cup run. Not even 10 years ago, probably 15 years ago.
The maddest thing, before we come to you, Joe, this form that Sunderland have lost the last five. Sheffield United haven't been fantastic either. Like none of the four have been in fantastic form. To be fair,
I do genuinely think. I think Coventry have got the momentum, and I'm saying that even they've lost games in this run, but I just feel Frank Lampard
as well. I feel really bad for him. I think maybe he got chucked in the deep end a little bit too quickly as a manager, but he gets a lot of stick. But I actually think he's an okay gaffer.
Who?
Frank Lampard.
Well, that coming on to my thoughts on it, I'd say Coventry because they're local, but they've scarred me for life with that game last year, and B, I can't bear the Sky Sports loving on Frank Lampard's Coventry City. So I'd say Bristol City because I think as a city, I think Bristol as a city deserves a Premier League football team at least for 1 year out of 100. I think it'd be good to good for the city. I think Liam Manning as a manager personally has gone through a lot, so I think it'd be good to see him without getting emotional about it. But I think it'd be good for him to kind of get up into the Premier League and show himself as a manager. But assuming they don't do a Daniel Farker and fuck him off before the season starts, which may or may not happen.
You see his reaction after full time, by the way, Farker.
Yeah, weird bloke, isn't he? Strange bloke, fucking strange. But he's kind of bloke who sits in the outside the pub, like in the smoking area, but not smoking.
Yeah,
He strikes me as that kind of weird top bloke. But it'd be Bristol for me, just because I think it'd be a new team to the Premier League. Sheffield United teams come up and down every year, so I can't be doing with that. Sunderland is just too far away. So, Bristol for me.
be interested to see Alex Scott. Obviously, he left Bristol City. He's not played too often this year. I don't know if he's had a nasty injury this season.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Be interesting to see if he's not quite ready. If he gets a cheeky loan move back to Bristol City or something, maybe, I don't know.
I think they probably have a little bit of pull geographically. Bristol's a nice city. It's a good city. I think they could probably get they could sell the dream of getting players in. I think it'd be interesting to see, because Bristol City's recruitment's quite strong. They recruit players from Europe fairly regularly. I think they probably have a good punt at maybe what Ipswich should have done, and maybe going a little bit more defensive in the Premier League, but getting the right players in that maybe if they do go down, they can then sell them on.
Yeah.
Rather than signing Jacob Greaves as 25 million quid. I'd like to see him go up.
They've done a bit of work to the ground. The first time I went, it was all wooden seats. It was Solback, and I went for the first time, beating 4-1. But I think they've done a bit of work to the ground now, so it's actually not an awful stadium either.
I went for the Ryan Bennett day. Yeah. I was there for that, and then we played them in the cup.
Yeah, I was there, the cup one.
Yeah,
2-0.
Cavallero scored.
Yeah, was it the season we've got?
That was my birthday. Semis. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Was it 1-0 or 2? I can't remember.
It was 1, I think. Yeah, I think it was 1. But they've done a lot of work to the stadium. I think it's Premier League ready. That stadium.
Yeah, I was going to say it's 27,000.
Yeah, it's a nice ground. I think it'd be good. It strikes me as maybe like I think these days are long gone where you'd have a Wigan come up and beat top 6 teams all the time. But I think Bristol, they can get a bit of a mad atmosphere in that ground. I'd be interested to see them come up, but I don't think they will. I think it'll be Sheffield United, to be honest. But
yeah, well, that's all. I think it's probably the longest podcast of the season. So apologies if we rambled on, but hopefully it was all good and you enjoyed it, guys. Jord, where can people find you if they wish?
At JordRoss7 on Twitter and Instagram.
Thank you, and Joe.
At Concept Scouting in the same places.
Perfect. I'm at Dave as a party on the socials, and we're at Talking Wolves everywhere. If you want to keep up to date with the latest Wolves news and rumours, be sure to follow us everywhere. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate the support. Actually, there's been a real nice spike of subscribers. We've got loads of content coming up. A massive recruitment plan video with Joe Gully and Dan Butler, who's returning to the channel as well. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, be sure to leave us a 5-star review. Look after yourselves. Enjoy your week and your bank holiday if you're in the UK. And we will be back next week to discuss, fingers crossed, another win as Brighton come to Molineux. But until then, guys, look after yourselves. I'll catch you on the next one.